what we always tell the partners or customers we work with is your iPhone or your Android phone is your best friend. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in. All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Axel Axelsson, the founder and CEO over at Brightspot Media. Axel, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
Our pleasure. Can you start out by giving us an overview of Brightspot Media? What is it that you guys do over there?
100%. So Brightspot Media is, rather than an agency, we're a growth partner where we help our clients and partners to achieve growth through different type of channels and also different type of marketing strategies, basically. We're mostly focusing on paid social with the Facebook and Instagram, but we also diverse to different other platforms like Pinterest, TikTok, also Snapchat for our partners.
I love that. And when you and I were chatting before the show, one of the things that was really cool to me is my impression is that really like PPC as a whole, pay-per-click advertising as a whole. So whether it's, Meta ads, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, you name it, is really the bread and butter of what you guys do. But then on top of that, you also have other, I'd call it like complementary services. I know you mentioned Google ads and email marketing to help those brands that do want a single partner that can help them out with a lot of these services.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So our bread and butter is the Facebook and Instagram side of the business, basically, where we drive out advertising to people who don't know about the brand. And to complement that, we also do Google ads and also email marketing, just because you can't be a brand in 2025 not doing Google ads and not doing email marketing, right? Because the advertising costs always increase. So by getting more people who already know about your brand coming in for Google ads is always a good thing. And also working with your first party data to get people who, basically have opted in some sort of way through the email marketing system is also a great idea.
So today, I'd love to focus on pay-per-click as a whole. Within that, I know that really like Meta as a whole, so Facebook, Instagram are two of like the primary channels when it comes to paid social PPC. I think it's safe to say that a lot of the discussion is going to focus around those two channels in particular, or holistically Meta ads. But I think it's safe to say a lot of these principles that we're going to discuss could be applied to some of the other paid social channels, TikTok, Instagram, with some nuance obviously coming into play. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, for sure. One thing to add there is all the other channels have copied Facebook's layout and all stuff like that. So once you have learned to handle all the ads on Facebook and Instagram, you can just put that straight into Snapchat, TikTok, or like Pinterest. It's all the same.
So let's talk about, paid social as a whole. What are some of the pros and cons of investing in paid social? Are there certain businesses that you would say it is always a no-brainer investment for, and other businesses that you very rarely recommend that they invest in this channel?
Yeah, for sure. So businesses that have their own products should definitely invest in Facebook and Instagram marketing. It's just because they need more customers, more new customers. And if we compare it to maybe Google ads, it's more of an pull channel where they pull in people who already want to search for the product or the service, basically. And the Facebook and Instagram or all the social channels are more like a push platform. So people who are on Instagram looking at their friends' pictures, they get these ads pushed in front of them. So businesses like cleaning services, maybe roofing, HVAC, also e-commerce, and basically most businesses that have their own products or services, there's a no-brainer to be on any social platform, especially Facebook and Instagram.
And even building upon that, I'll oftentimes recommend to clients that they put some amount of budget into like whichever paid social channels best suited for them. Because on top of that, we're going to see pretty consistently a rise in demand for their services. We're going to see an increase in branded searches if they scale up their investment there. And a lot of that comes back on the back end to people actively searching for your brand. And that is, one of the benefits where something like Google ads or SEO can really come into play and help you to get even more sales down the road.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. that's always what we see when we implement, for example, Google Ads. We see that the performance of the Google Ads goes up to maybe 50% of the total revenue. But the thing is, that's not actually the case because most people come through Facebook and Instagram. But then when they are on the subway, they look at their phone, they see a brand, they remember the name. Once they come home and everything has calmed down after the work day or commuting to work, they basically search for the brand and go to Google. So I would say there's a no-brainer to have both one sort of push channel. It could be like sales reps who calls. That's also a push channel. It could be like flyers. You put it out on the bus or like on the street. It could also be like social media ads. And then you also need a pull channel where you pull in people. And that could be like Google Ads. Also have to remember that 12% of all the searches are for Bing. That could also be Bing ads and stuff like that.
Now, and along those lines, so let's say for the listeners that you've totally sold on Facebook ads, they're sitting there and saying, okay, Axel, you've convinced me I need to be putting more money into push marketing. Let's talk about helping that person to really get set up with their first Meta ads campaign. So this person's sitting down, let's say right after the recording, they're going to sit down, they're going to spend, $1,000, $2,000 US a month on Meta ads. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see an e-commerce business owner making when they're first getting set up with Meta ads?
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely the foundations that they are getting wrong. So with the tracking, you need to have the tracking all set up in the right way. And it doesn't have to be hard to get a developer spending $20,000 or $30,000 on getting those to set up tracking, because most of the e-commerce platforms out there, like Ecommerce, you also have Shopify, you have BigCommerce, you have all these platforms. They have partner integration straight with Facebook and Instagram. So what you just do is just go into the Facebook and Instagram platform and you just follow their guides, basically. So without the right and proper tracking, Facebook won't know what type of customers interact with your brand in a certain way and won't know when someone is about to make a purchase and stuff like that. So that's definitely something you need to spend some time into. And again, it's not hard to do, especially if you have one of these platforms I talked about. Otherwise, you will have to maybe get a developer. But yeah, that's definitely something you need to focus on. And also moving into the second mistake I usually see is that most people complicate things, like Facebook and Instagram marketing, or like Meta as a whole. They want you to do ads and they don't want to make it hard just because they can. They want to make it easy for you as a customer of their, basically. So that means that we need to start focusing on the things that Facebook can't do for us. Facebook can do all the targeting for us. Facebook can help us find the right type of text and stuff like that. They can also help us find the right target audience, basically. So what we need to focus on, instead of focusing on those things, we need to focus on the things that Facebook can't focus on for us, which is the content side. So Facebook and Instagram marketing is less about being an Excel cruncher with numbers and stuff, and more about being a creative person, or basically just a person that can talk to a camera.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick on the, call it the conversion tracking side of things. I won't ask you to get super granular on how to set that up, because I swear that Meta changes their setup for their entire backend layout like every other month. Listeners, definitely Google search a support article, a couple support articles. You'll find some great resources, but if we were to tell you right now, here's the exact way to set it up, it's probably going to have changed by the time you hear this episode, by the time we've gone live. Let's dive a little more into the creative side of things, though. So you mentioned the idea that really, in your opinion, creative is the biggest thing that businesses should be focusing on when it comes to Meta ads. Let's actually start out with medium, first of all. In your opinion, is it better to do text ads that are really creative? Is it better to put your time into like static graphic design images, let's say, high-res photos, videos? What do you see performing best?
So it goes back to what type of content that is already on the platform, basically. So on Instagram and Facebook, it's people who post about their daily life, right? So that could be pictures. It could also be videos. So by mimicking the type of platform you're going to advertise on, you're going to create good content, basically. So we should talk about like user-generated content when we do advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And that's basically because the whole Instagram is user-generated content, right? If you follow an influencer, all the content they do is from them because they're the user. So that's basically what you need to focus on and understand. So if it's Twitter ads, for example, that would be more text-based, right?
Just because I would imagine this is a more challenging question. Let's say we focus on meta ads for a second, because you had mentioned the idea of most likely videos and photos being what's going to perform best, just because, to your point, that is the type of content that exists in the unpaid side of content that's there. If I'm a business just getting started out, how should I think about creating that content? Do I need to hire like professional actors? Do I need to hire a film crew that's going to create this content for me? Should I be getting behind the camera and like taking selfies with my product? What's your recommendation there?
Great question, Pat. What we always tell the partners or customers we work with is your iPhone or your Android phone is your best friend. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Make sure that you have semi-good quality of sound. Make sure that you don't have a phone that's like 10 years old. And that's it. We talked about user-generated content before, but there's also other types of generated content, which is also founder-generated content, employee-generated content. All these types of different content formats or types are working on Facebook and Instagram right now. So what we always tell our partners we work with that have a lower type of budget is skip the investment in all the influencers and also the UGC creators, focusing on getting your employees to do the content and also yourself, because there's no one better than yourself talking about your own product than you, basically. So just get your phone up, get some okay sound and start recording and talking about your products, because people will feel the passion you have for your product or service. So that's definitely what I recommend starting out with. And usually like even like the employee generated content or the founder generated content usually performs way better than the user generated content. Because as I said before, there's no one better talking about your own product than you.
Very interesting. Let's say you put out a request to your team for everyone on the team to create one video. We'll work with some simple math. We'll say you get 10 people on your team. Each of them creates one video for your brand. Each of them is doing something with your product. What's your recommendation about how to prioritize ad budget for those? Does it make sense to spread the ad budget equally across all 10? Does it make sense to put all your ad budget into one of them for 2 months and then go on to the next one for 2 months? How do you typically approach that?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say there's one more simple way to do it and one a little bit more advanced way to do it. And the simple way is, it's really simple. So like the Facebook platform, when I talk about Facebook, I mean like the whole network Facebook has, which includes Instagram, WhatsApp, and also Messenger stuff. They have like not recently, but a couple of years back, implemented a type of campaign that's called Advantage Plus. And that's basically what you do is just create that type of campaign and you put all your ads in that campaign. You don't do any like duplicates of any ad sets. You don't do anything fancy. Just put all your ads in here and then Facebook will choose what ads performs the best. Like that's the most simple way to do it. So if you don't have any experience, you don't have too much time, just create one Advantage Plus campaign and put all your ads in there. If you want to go a little bit more advanced, I recommend you creating different ad sets with all the ads in it, which you put at a certain budget for 3 days. So, for example, if your product costs $50, I would recommend you spending around $20 per ad every day. And do that for 3 days. And then you will be able to see what ads performs best because you have given all the ads the same amount of budget. Then you can see the return on ad spend on each ad. So, okay, this ad got 5 in return on ad spend. Okay, keep it on. This ad got 0. Okay, turn it off. Stuff like that, basically. So there's those two setups I would recommend for anyone that's like new and a little bit more intermediate. And then you can go all day about what type of setup works and stuff like that. But this works totally.
So let's shift gears for a second over to the more established business. For context, let's assume we're looking at a hypothetical e-com business. They have been running meta ads for the past 3 years. And maybe they reach out to you. They say, hey, Axel, we've heard great things about your services. We'd love to have you audit our account and see what opportunities you find. What are some of the first things that either you're looking for or the most expensive mistakes that you see that this brand is very likely making?
For sure. There's multiple times I've seen huge amount of money wasters in new accounts. And the first thing that's obvious thing to look out for is the targeting. If you rewind like 5 or 6 years back in time, Facebook and Instagram didn't have as much data as they have right now, which also meant that you as an advertiser, you needed to choose the right audience to reach out to. That means that you tested the audiences. You saw that, okay, people who like boats compared to people who like cruises is the type of audience that works best for my product. Nowadays, you have like TikTok, you have all these platforms, they're collecting data like crazy. They know what you ate for dinner last night, basically. So by allowing Facebook to target the type of customer you want to target, you will save much money on that. So like the wrong conclusion is like back in the days, most people did what I told you before, but people still look at those videos. I don't know where they get the information, but most accounts have this like really narrow targetings based on their account, which means that you get way higher cost to reach out to 1,000 people, and also, ultimately results in lower return on ad spend, basically. So by just doing a simple fix like that, we can basically save like 20 to 30% of the ad spend. So that's a huge one. Like that's around like 40% of all the businesses are currently doing that are well established, basically.
Struggling to get new customers? We're here to help. Hey, this is Pat, the host of Customer Growth Sessions. Our agency, Intergrowth, has been helping e-commerce brands like Bella Bridesmaids, Brevity, and JS Dental to get more customers online since 2016. Interested in seeing how we'd help you? Head over to intergrowth.com/CGS to book a complimentary consultation with me. That's intergrowth.com/CGS. All right, back to the show.
That's incredible. I mean, crazy to think that you can change that one lever and after everything gets recalibrated, that's 20, 30% savings there.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's more common than you think. Like Facebook recommends you to have an open audience. They don't recommend you to target women who are 40 to 43 years old who lives in Chicago downtown and then et cetera, et cetera. They don't want you to do that anymore. Like back in the days, it worked really good and that was the way you scaled. You focus less on creatives and more about the ad account. Now with all the other businesses that are advertising on Facebook and Instagram, you need to diversify yourself in the things that Facebook can't do for you. I will go back to that multiple times because Facebook are really good at what they're doing. They want you to make money because if you make money, you will spend more and they will make money, right? So you need to focus on the things that Facebook can't focus on.
Now, I'd love to step back and get a better understanding. If a new client comes to Brightspot Media, how do you and the team typically go about setting up their ad campaigns? Talk to us about your process. What do you find works best for you?
As I said before, we need to focus on what Facebook and like the platforms can't focus on. So the first thing we do is ask the client about their customers and also about their product. It's really important for us to actually know what type of customers they have and what type of product they actually sell, because otherwise we can't advertise it, right? And what we do after that is basically do our own research on what type of customers they have. And by doing that, we know what type of content we should create. It goes back to content and the things that Facebook can't focus on. And by knowing what type of content we will create and what type of customers we're talking to, it's way easier to get good results, basically. So that's what we do like before we set up everything in the ad account and stuff like that. And once we get into the ad accounts, that's basically like the fastest and the easiest part, because all the pre-work and all the content stuff is the things that takes the most time, basically. So yeah, that's basically what we do with all the setup and everything.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So you've collected the information you needed to, you've gotten, let's say, tracking set up within the ad account. How do you and Brightspot Media go about, I guess I would say, approaching the ad creative process? Are you sending out a request to every person at the company via email saying, hey, we're looking for people to create content X, Y, and Z? Do you more so work with influencers that are going to help with that content creation? Tell us a little more about that.
I think these three topics that I talked about before, like founder-generated content, employee-generated content, and also user-generated content. We look at the case and look at the budget. Of course, if you have $5,000 or $10,000 to spend on just creating content, we will find these type of influencers that are good to, basically talk about your product. So we can't sell a grip strengthening product to people who are not working out, basically, because they won't think about it. So we need to find the right type of users that can create this type of content for us. And also what we do is going back to the founder generated content and also the employee generated content, because these are the people who knows the best about the product and also are the most passionate. Even though we can spend $10,000 to get 50 creatives, we still want to go back to the founder and get those people to create the content. So the whole process is that we find out what type of content we want to create. For example, do we want to talk about the benefits of our product? Do we want to talk about what this product does for the people that we are targeting? And then we match that basically with what we know. So like, do we want to reach out to users, employees, or do we want to reach out to the founder? And then we brief the type of creator that creates this with what we know we should say, basically. So that also has to do with like the hook. Like, what do people in this audience that likes this product need to know? What stops the scroll? That's really important because most people are just scrolling like zombies nowadays. So what can we do that stops the scroll, right? And basically creates all the content from that path and do all the briefing to the current creator. And then they record it, we edit it, and then we publish it on Facebook.
Maybe for the businesses that are looking to work directly with micro influencers that can create this content for them, I'd imagine there's a wide range in budget that you'd expect to see. But if you're working and looking to maybe do something that's a little bit more cost effective, are there certain benchmarks that you should allocate, whether it's $1,000, whether it's $100, that maybe would be a good starting point for getting some influencer content?
There's difference between influencer content and user-generated content, because influencer content is usually a little bit more expensive. And also, to give you some context, user-generated content, that could be from a person with 200 followers. Influencer content is basically from 10,000 followers and upwards, right? But there's a little bit of difference here, which I like to talk about, and that influencer content could also pay for itself. So for example, if you reach out to an influencer and they want you to pay them $2,000 for one video, you can also ask them to post it on their story, which means that if they post it on their story, you maybe make 2,000 in sales back. So basically break even on getting free content. So that's also a strategy you can do, but you will have to at least have like $10,000, I would say, to get that going, because then you can reach out to 5 to 10 influencers, ask them to post on it on their stories. One influencer will get 1 sale and one influencer will get 100 sales for a brand. So that's a way to basically get free content, which we have done. Once you get that going, you get more posts, you get more well-known in the niche you're advertising in and stuff like that. And then on the other side, you have the user-generated content, and which is usually just a normal person within 500 and 5,000 followers. And those people cost around $100 to $200 for one video. So that's a more like cost-effective way to start out, right? What I would recommend is doing 1 video a week at a minimum. And remember also you can do the employee-generated content and also the founder-generated content combined with this. And that's free. That only costs time. So
I'd love to spend a few minutes talking about maybe the ROI component of meta ads. So in your opinion, is there either a certain timeline that you should expect to run meta ads for, or a certain ad budget that you should expect to put in before it's fair to say that you've given it a chance? Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It also depends on what ad budget and also what type of people who have actually advertised, right? If there's an old advertising agency that did previously like news magazine ads in all the papers and stuff, and they do your ads. Of course, maybe they haven't adapted to the new landscape. They just had to adapt their agency, and they ran your ads. They spent $5,000. You get $2,000 back in sales. You can't let go of Facebook and Instagram and say, this doesn't work. You need to find the right partner who actually can tell you what you need to know. Because all products who have the right margin will work on Facebook and Instagram. All products. I don't mean like, use a certain amount of products. I mean all the products. And that goes back to, as I said, the margins. So you just need to have a positive business. That's a good case. So what I would say, if you have better than like a total of COGS of 30%, which means that if you sell one product and for $30, it costs $10 to make it, that's a good case. Everything better than that, of course, is just way better. Otherwise, every business will work on with Facebook and Instagram. And going back to if you've given it a chance or not, like it depends on who's advertising for you. Is it a person that have done Facebook ads 1 week, like 5 years ago? Or is it a person that actually knows what they're doing? It's a little bit of a big and open answer on that question, but there's no certain like day or time period when you can say, okay, I've tested Facebook and Instagram ads and it doesn't work for us.
Speaking of the idea of having someone do it for you, what guidance do you typically offer to e-com brands in terms of maybe signals that they're at the stage where the founder should be directly running meta ads for the business versus hiring a full-time employee to manage it? Maybe that's their full-time job or 50% of their work week versus hiring, call it like an external partner, like your agency. There's certain benchmarks that you really look for to say, hey, option A versus option C is going to be great for you based on what you've shared.
It all depends on if we go out and start thinking about a business that wants to be profitable, right? They don't have a massive amount of external investments. They just want to go plus on their advertising. I would say once you reach $20,000 a month, that's the time where you can start outsourcing it to an external partner. Before that, the founder or someone in the business needs to run the ads or find some sort of channel that they can generate sales from. Between like $20,000 to up to $500,000 a month, I would say it's a good time to have some sort of external partner. It could just be one guy that runs ads that have their own like self-employed business, or it could be an agency, because this is the time where you need to have expertise and you can pay a little bit more per hour for it, but you don't have to have a person on full time, right? You have to pay a full salary to them each month. There's a more cost-effective way and also a better way to actually generate results. And after $100,000 to $500,000 is a good time to get an employee to basically handle all the ads full time. Because that's also really important to have people who actually care about your brand. That could be like people actually cares about the brand, or it could be people who makes a lot of money working with you, which in then turns you as a priority for them, basically. So yeah, that's the benchmarks I would say. And of course it can change a little bit, but that's what I would do if I ran an e-commerce business at least.
Axel, this has been great. So let's assume that I'm an e-commerce founder. I'm looking to hire someone to do meta ads for me, but maybe I really don't know much at all about meta ads. I know it's a platform I need to invest in. How can I go about vetting meta ad specialists to make sure I hire someone who really knows their stuff?
Really good question, Pat. There's one thing that I would focus on if I'm an e-commerce owner and need to hire an expert in this field. And that's how open they are, basically. And what I mean by that is, can they show their current results with you? Can they maybe jump into the ad account, show their current results, show their return on ad spend that they have generated? That's a really good green flag. And it also has to do, can they share some sort of customers' details so you can talk with their current customers and actually get them real feedback from them. So if you could get the phone number, that's really good. Just give them a quick call, ask about, okay, how was Axel working with? He was really good, blah, blah. Or yeah, maybe he wasn't the guy that he told me that he was before we started to work. And also one thing also to look out for is, do they have a good online presence? So if you talk about a bigger agency or a bigger like expert in this field, they of course maybe have stricter agreements, and they also can't show like ad accounts and stuff like that. That also means that they will have to show that in another way, which could be with customer testimonials with brands you actually know about, basically. So that's what I would do if I'm an e-commerce owner. I wouldn't take their word for granted and just listen to everything they said. I would be a little bit skeptical about jumping into bed with just a random expert.
Agreed. If they're struggling to provide any sort of evidence that they know their stuff, that's always a good thing to dive a little bit deeper into and ask, why aren't they willing to share this info today?
Yeah.
Well, Axel, this has been amazing. For listeners that want to get in touch with you and maybe that want to find out about working with Brightspot Media, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn, where I mainly post on Swedish, but you can always write to me in English, which is Axel Axelsson on LinkedIn. And you can also get in touch with me on Instagram. That's also a good place which is Axel Axelsson, but with 3 S's in the Axelsson. So that's 2 great places you can get in touch. And also you can write their website just into Google. We're about to change domains. I don't want to say the domain name, but you can always search for Brightspot Media and you will be able to find us.
I love it. And listeners, check out the show notes. We'll have links to all the show notes in the new domain by the time this episode goes live. But once again, listeners, this is Axel Axelsson, the founder over at Brightspot Media. Axel, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.